guys, I wanted to do something a little bit different in this week's vlog. So I'm going to give you all of my winter horse hacks. So winter is a difficult time for all horse owners, unless you've got your horse on full livery and someone else is doing all the jobs for you. It's hard work, it's cold, it's wet, it's muddy, the days are short, you don't have much time, and yeah, it's not the most fun time of the year. So any help that we can get is gonna, it's gonna go down well. Everyone needs a little bit of help at this time of year. So over the years of having horses, I have come up with lots of different hacks, lots of different things that are helpful, time saving money, all that kind of thing. So I thought that I would share a few of those with you today. If you like this video, please do give me a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe. And if you do like it and you'd like to see some more hacks, maybe some springtime hacks, some summer hacks, or maybe even more winter hacks, then please do let me know and I can do another video for you. So my first hack is all to do with clothing. Now in the winter it can be quite hard to be warm and be practical at the same time. Because you can buy, really big warm coats and big thick padded trousers and things like that to keep you warm, but actually they're not that practical when you then want to get on and ride. So what I tend to do is I will wear a pair of leggings underneath my joggers. I have leggings on all the time in winter underneath whatever I'm wearing because they're just brilliant. Or I will put on a pair of jogging bottoms over the top of my joggers instead, and then I can just take the joggers off when I go to ride a horse and pop them back on afterwards to do all the dirty jobs and things like that. It helps to keep my joggers clean, but it also helps to keep me warm because it's just got that extra layer. But you don't really want to wear really tight fitting clothes in the winter because that does make you colder. It doesn't keep you warm. You want to keep like a layer of air in between sort of layers of clothing. So when I wear joggers, I do have my winter joggers, which are usually a size too big for me because then they're just that little bit more roomy. They've got that room to put a pair of leggings underneath, but also they've just got that little bit more room, so they're not like skin tight, which is fine in the summer, but in the winter you just need that kind of air in between the layers is what keeps you warm. So yeah, try not to keep your clothing very tight. The other thing I do is I wear an extra pair of socks with my wellies, which I know most people do, but what I find is that in the winter, because I'm dealing a lot more with hay and bedding and things like that, my socks get really disgusting really quickly. They get lots of hay seeds and bits stuck to them, and then I used to spend so much time when I got home trying to pick them all off so that they could go in the washing machine. So what I do now instead is I just have a pair of sort of warm thermal socks that I keep at the yard. I keep them in my wellies and I just pop them on over the top of my socks before I put my feet into my wellies. They're a lot cheaper than welly warmers, and what I tend to do is wear them for a couple of weeks and then I throw them away and put a new pair on, and I literally pick these up for like £2 for 3 pairs in Primark, so it's really not expensive, and it's just a really handy way to do it. It saves a lot of time picking bits off of socks, and they're really warm as well. They keep my feet, my toes nice and toasty. I also always have my trusty ear warmer and my trusty snood on. I much prefer these to wearing a hat and a scarf. A hat I find makes the top of my head way too hot, and then it gets itchy and it's uncomfortable. An ear warmer I just find is so much more comfortable for me, and my snood I prefer to a scarf because a scarf I find sometimes it's just too long and it gets in the way and it hangs out the bottom of your coat and it's just, it gets dirty and things like that, whereas a snood, it's just fleece, it's not like a wool texture or anything. It just makes such a difference in keeping me warm. If I have my ears warm and my neck warm, the rest of me is warm. It just stops those drafts going in down the front of your coat, which is just the worst. The next hack is all about my horse's clothing. So Ginger had a completely new wardrobe a couple of years ago. I completely changed all of his rugs. We used to have major issues with the neck of his rug rubbing out his mane, and he'd go then into spring with like no mane in one part of, on one section of his neck, which was really not very nice, and that, it wasn't ideal. And my thought was, if it's rubbing, then it's obviously not very comfortable. I also find that a lot of turnout rugs and stable rugs with necks on, the straps kind of cut across their neck like that, and I always think it looks really uncomfortable when it's really, really tight, and then also you end up with like that much of their neck kind of exposed. And then it gets wet and it's cold, and it's just, sometimes I think there's no point in having a neck on these rugs because they don't seem to really add anything to the rug, they just make it more uncomfortable. So I then found a couple of brands of rugs that have an extra piece in the neck, and it's really handy just having that extra little insert that just goes in the top of the neck, because it creates kind of like a concertina effect. When the horse puts his head down to eat, it brings the neck down with it, so then it doesn't cut across on their neck, it doesn't leave a great big gap, you know, their whole neck is still covered, and then when they put their head up it just concertinas back in again, so it's really nice and comfortable. And the best thing is his mane is not being rubbed out anymore. He has got a full mane, and he has had for the last 2 or 3 years that I've been using these rugs, so that's made a huge difference. Yeah, so really pleased with those. The brands that I use are, for turnout rugs I use Gallop rugs, and they are super cheap. Like, Gallop rugs are some of the cheapest rugs I've ever found, and they have lasted him really well. I was worried that the quality might not be very good because they were so cheap, but honestly they have lasted really well. All of his turnout rugs are Gallop, except for one. He has got one Amigo, Horseware Amigo turnout, but otherwise all of his turnout rugs are Gallop branded, and yeah, they all have that neck feature, which is really handy. I believe Mark Todd also has that feature on his rugs as well, so if you want something a little bit more expensive, a little bit you know, sort of high end, then you could go for the Mark Todd ones. And for his stable rugs I use a brand called Jumpers Horseline, or JHL, and they do the same with their stable rugs, because unfortunately I found that Gallop don't have that extra insert in their stable rugs, which is really bizarre because they have it on their turnout rugs, so I really don't understand why they don't have it on their stable rugs. But the JHL ones are really good as well. They're, you know, it's a nice fit. The neck's quite big, that's the only thing. It is quite roomy, so if you've got a horse with quite a skinny neck, then you might want to think about going a size down with those rugs, but it's kind of worth trying it out and seeing, because I think every horse is a different shape, and you know, one thing isn't going to fit every horse the same, so it's worth trying one though, because they are really nice rugs. Now, this is one of my favourite hacks and one of my most useful hacks, and I tell a lot of people about this one because I get so many comments about how on earth Ginger always looks so clean in the winter when it's muddy and it's wet and it's horrible outside, and he always comes in looking clean. Some of it is because I do groom him every day, and obviously he is stabled overnight, so he gets an opportunity to come in and get dry and all that kind of thing, so obviously that does make a difference. If you've got a horse who's living out 24/7, you can't expect them to be clean all the time, it's not going to happen. But also, one of the other reasons why Ginger is quite clean all the time is because I do have a little secret that I use. So I groom him every day, and then at the end of my grooming session, maybe once every week, maybe once every 2 weeks, it depends how muddy it is in his field, I use some oil, and you can use kind of any kind of oil. I use something that is either designed for horses or for babies, because then I think at least you know, it's safe, you know, it's okay for sensitive skin and things like that, and Ginger's quite sensitive, so anything that's safe on him is kind of safe on most horses. At the moment I'm using this oil to horse stuff. The reason why I'm using this is because I bought it for his mud fever, but unfortunately it didn't really work for his mud fever, but it does really work for this method. So I use the oil to horse, and then I also use one of these microfiber mitts, and I just pop some oil onto the mitt, scrunch it all together, and then just rub it over the areas that get really muddy. So the worst places on him are on his cheeks, his ears, and then kind of the top of his neck and his mane, and then also like the tops of his legs and his knees and all those places, all the places where the rug doesn't cover basically. They get really muddy, so I just pop a little bit of that on, say once a week, maybe once a fortnight, and what that does is it just completely repels the mud, so mud can't stick to that. So he then comes in looking perfectly clean every day. It's really handy, and I always know if I've forgotten to do it, if I've missed my opportunity to do it and the oil's kind of gone off of his coat, because he comes in and he's disgusting, and then it takes so much to get it off. I have to really like scrape to get the mud off, and he really doesn't like that. I think because he's very sensitive, it kind of pulls at his hair and it pulls at his skin, and it's not very comfortable for him. So I do this for him really, but also for me because I like him being clean. But it works really well, and it also kind of conditions the hair a bit and makes them really shiny and really soft, and it's just lovely. It works so well, so I definitely recommend that tip. So I also use microfiber cloths. I use them a lot with with Ginger. I use them, as I say, to put the oil on, but I also use them just in my normal grooming routine. So obviously I only use the oil once every week or every fortnight, so then in between that, in my normal grooming routine, I'll brush him all over, and then I'll use a microfiber cloth just to go over his coat afterwards. And what that does is it just lifts out any of the excess dust and dirt and grime, and just gives a gorgeous shine to his coat. It makes him really soft, makes him really shiny. It's another thing that people ask me all the time is, oh my gosh, how on earth do you get him so shiny? Obviously a lot of it is due to diet and condition and things like that, but for his coat I do use those microfiber cloths a lot, and it really helps. It really makes such a difference. So just go over him with that and it really brings out a beautiful shine on him. Another thing you can do if you don't want to use the microfiber cloths is to just dampen a body brush, and I literally mean just dampen it, and then just brush the horse over with that, and again that just gathers up all the excess dust and things like that. Those two hacks are really useful if you don't have hot water on your yard, because something a lot of people like to do is to hot cloth their horse in the winter, because obviously we can't bath them because it's cold, so they'll get some warm water and they'll put it onto a cloth and they'll rub their horse down all over with that. And that works really well to get all the dirt and dust out, but if you don't have hot water, it's not a very nice thing to do with cold water. So those two tips really do help with that. So when you're wetting your body brush, yeah, you're probably using cold water, but you literally just damp it just so it just is damp, and then you just kind of go over the top of the hair with it. You're not going to really do like a deep groom with it. My final hack, unfortunately I didn't get to film because I've run out. I need to go to the shop and buy some more. But my final hack is to use tea tree oil. Now, tea tree oil is fantastic. I use it for so much stuff. There's so many really good uses of tea tree oil, but in the winter what I mainly use it for is on Ginger's feet. Now, Ginger has not got great feet, unfortunately. He's kind of been cursed with that awful thoroughbred feet syndrome, so they're very soft. He gets infections very easily, he gets holes in his feet a lot, so I have to do a lot to kind of keep infections at bay and keep him healthy. So anytime he gets a hole in his foot, the first thing I do is put tea tree oil into it, because that just kills off any infection. It's a really natural thing as well, which I really like to do. I like to keep things as natural as I can for him. So I use it in the holes in his feet, and also sometimes when you bring your horse in and it's been really wet and it's just not been very nice out there, and they get that kind of horrible smell in their feet, and it's kind of one step away from becoming thrush, which obviously then you need to treat in however you need to treat it with your horse, depending on what your vet and your farrier suggest. But I've always had really good results with tea tree oil. As soon as you start getting that little bit of a smell, I just put a few drops kind of either side of his frog and then around the white line as well, and that just clears that up straight away. It just, it fights all the bacteria, and it just creates a more healthy environment for his foot to be in. So tea tree oil is very useful. I really love using that, and I literally buy like a little pot about that sort of size from B&M or Home Bargains or somewhere like that, and I think it's about £2, and it lasts ages. It's really good stuff. So that's the end of my hacks video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got a few ideas for your horse. If you have any hacks, any winter hacks that you do that you've picked up over the years, please do comment below and let me know. I'm always looking for more time saving and money saving ideas, so please do comment below and let me know if you enjoyed this video. I'll see you next week.